take a listen at this conversation very, very carefully, because Piers Morgan, I call him Piers Moron, will say something outrageous. And I will show you some examples. I will give you some evidence that way you will know exactly how he is lying on camera, Piers Moron.
So when people categorize what Hamas did on October 7th as resistance, do you think that's an acceptable choice of word for what happened that day?
If you're fighting against occupation forces, undoubtedly it is. So if you cross the wire, break out of the wire of the concentration camp, it was David Cameron, I remind you, who called it the largest open-air prison camp in the world. If you break through and you start taking a toll on your guards, the people who've kept you in this absolute immiseration, penury, with regular death being dealt to you, then that's a legitimate act of resistance.
But it's not legitimate to attack kids and grandmothers.
I already said that.
No, that's what I mean.
Already.
But that's what I mean. Yeah. Some people try to describe what Hamas did that day as resistance.
No, killing grandmas and kids is terrorism.
It's not resistance.
It's not resistance.
Right.
It's terrorism.
That's my point.
But killing soldiers and security officers of the Israeli state is enshrined in international law. When you used the phrase earlier about Israel having the right to defend itself, it literally does not have the right. It's excluded.
Every country has the right to defend itself. It's
excluded in international law that any country has the right to defend itself from territories that it illegally occupies. So the occupied have that right.
Hang on. As you've just said, many acts of terrorism were committed that day, and every country has a fundamental right to defend its people from terrorism. You would agree with that?
Yes, from terrorism.
Right.
But
so Israel does have a right to, because the Hamas spokesman, I think critically for this debate, the Hamas spokesman within several weeks on camera said we will keep trying to do this again and again.
Well, I'm not a supporter.
Okay, so let's talk about this one, what Piers Morgan said. So basically, Israel has all the right to commit genocide, wipe out Gaza, and Hamas, or the Palestinian people in Gaza, they have absolutely no right to even make a sound, saying that, oh, we are so much in suffering and pain. The Palestinians do not even have the right to do so. If you say anything, in this case, Piers Morgan said, well, Hamas said, oh yeah, we're going to continue doing this over and over again. If you say anything, what Israel is doing in Palestine for the last several decades, you will be considered as a terrorist. Now, let's talk about this real issue. I really want to show you something here that you really need to read. So this is what Israel is doing. So wiping out Gaza is part of their plan. Many of the countries blocking UNRWA funding a de facto death sentence for many of the 2.3 million people in Gaza, and helping Israel wipe out the Palestinian population of Gaza, are responsible for the historical genocidal campaigns to wipe out entire population. This is what Israel is committing right now, a genocide, and no one, including resistance forces, have the right to say anything that if you commit genocide, we're going to come back to you over and over again. Because for Israel, anybody who would say anything about this genocide or against this genocide is being considered as a potential target, and they're going to continue on doing this. Take a look at this picture. I'm not going to be playing the whole thing, but this is what Israel is doing. So in response, if you say anything to Israel, that if you commit this genocide, if you commit this oppression that you're committing for the past several decades, I will come back to you over and over again, because I need to let the whole world know and let Israel know that we exist and that we will fight for our freedom, for our rights. But for Israel, don't do that. Now, what is even more shocking is that Israel is not after the people of Gaza, the Muslims, the Hamas, they call them. They're also after the Christians. Gaza's Christians are not, even they are not spared from the threat. And they said Gaza's Christians fear, quote unquote, threat of extinction amid Israel war. People are not safe in Gaza, even regardless of their religion. In other words, their target is to wipe out Gaza. And this is why we have seen this guy, this moron, big time moron, and a terrorist making such a statement. His name is Pastor John MacArthur. I want you to take a listen what he is saying. Something very, very frightening.
And I think about that story so often when I think about this is like the modern version of Amalek. And until they're wiped out, this is just going to go on and on and on and on.
Okay, so according to this pastor, this terrorist, Israel must wipe out Gaza, or else the resistance force will always continue to fight for their survival, and this is not what something acceptable for the Zionist state, for their survival, and this is why they're doing what they're doing right now. So don't make any mistake. Don't think that this is a matter of Gazan or Hamas resisting Israeli oppression. This is a clear-cut genocide against the people of Gaza, and in response, nobody dares to say a word. If Hamas says, we're going to resist because you are committing genocide, you're killing our children, you are raping our women, you are committing this genocide, if you say that, Hamas, anybody for that matter, not just Hamas, you'll be in big, big trouble. And this is what Piers Moron doesn't understand, guys. This is what he doesn't understand. Or maybe he does, but he doesn't want to accept it. He doesn't want to acknowledge the reality of it, that Gaza is going to be wiped out. But Piers Moron is busy with peddling these lies that no, Gaza, these people, Israeli people, the government is so nice to them, they're treating them so nice. It is Hamas, it is a resistance force, they are the one who is creating all this problem. But this is what Piers Moron does all the time.
Of Hamas.
I'm not saying you are. I'm saying in terms of Israel's right to defend itself, indeed, I would say a moral duty. Now, the scale of it we're going to come to, and there we might meet some common ground. But on the principle of if you suffer a terror attack of that nature, in the way that it was.
If you're a business owner, then
this is, again, totally unbelievable. He is still talking about Israel has the right to defend itself. Israel has the right to do this. Israel has the right to do that. He does not for 1 second understand the gravity of the situation for the people of Gaza. He doesn't want to acknowledge none of it.
Perpetrated. But Israel has a fundamental right and a duty to its people, if the perpetrators say we're going to keep trying to do this, to defend itself. You would agree with that?
But to defend yourself by killing and mutilating 150,000 people and climbing, Save the Children have just said there are 21,000 missing children on top of the 15,000.
Oh, we don't have these figures. These figures have not been confirmed.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Piers Moron, these numbers are being confirmed by Israeli media. They themselves, they have said this is what is happening, this is how many people are dying. This guy is unbelievable. You give them number, how many casualties, how many deaths are happening in Gaza, they completely deny it. They completely reject your numbers. The only number that is acceptable is if it is coming from Israeli ministry.
You can believe Save the Children or not. I agree. I think they're a pretty reputable organization.
I believe
Princess Anne is their patron.
It is widely accepted that up to about 40,000 people so far have died.
Yeah, Piers Moron, you are a moron and you'll remain a moron because, again, you don't see the truth and you always peddle your lies only to get caught by people and being called out by the entire population of the world. Every one of us, we can see your hypocrisy, your moronic behavior full on display.